What's going on, folks? Painless. Um, get right down to it. You all see the title. Um, I've talked about this subject many times in the past about liberals and their agenda in terms of the so-called black community and how, if you really look into it, it's almost as if they see black folks in a childlike state, in a state in where we need special concessions, a pick-me-up, if you will, quotas, affirmative action, help. And many of y'all know my position. I'm strongly against affirmative action, always have, because it contradicts what the contributions that many black folks have made in the past, even coming out of a time where, logically speaking, those arguments that are being made now in terms of blacks needing help, needing incentive, would be warranted in that time. Meaning, we talk about Black Wall Street, but no one talks about, well, everyone, when they speak about Black Wall Street, it's on a negative. And I'm not denying that Black Wall Street was a travesty, an example of white supremacy, not in the way that you hear the term white supremacy, but there was an effort, and a successful effort, in thwarting black success, all black success. We'll never deny that. That's fact. But no one really talks about how there came to be a Black Wall Street. And my thing is, if things were so bad back then, how did a Black Wall Street thrive? How were these people who liberals say are intellectually or inferior in all spheres, intelligence, things like that, the ability to develop something like that, a society within itself, a society within a society. How was that able to happen if these people are so inferior? And it's because we're not inferior. We've never been inferior. We've never supported affirmative action. If you talk to most black folks, first off, we're very prideful people, not in a negative sense, but I reflect on older black folks that I know and have known that have maybe passed on or whatever. To come at them and say, hey, we're going to help you do this, and, this fake, false prop-up. Most black folks back in that day, not now, and I'm about to get to that, but most older black folks didn't want that. They like, I got this. I can take care. We don't need assistance like that. So that, to me, is another example, another piece of evidence that shows black folks have never wanted state-sponsored assistance in that form. Now, the state-sponsored assistance now, in terms of welfare that has gone digital, things like that, that's supported and that's wanted. It's bragged about, In fact, we've taken a step back. And, I've spoken and others have spoken about this, that how do you have a people that right out of slavery into Jim Crow, the sharecropper era, who were self-sufficient, who didn't have this degenerative modern day black culture that I despise, that we grovel in and really tout around, to what we have now. You had more, in those days, you had two-parent households. 70% of black kids grew up with a mother and a father. Now we don't have that. And I know you're tired of hearing the statistics, and I've been saying this since 2012, 2011. We can get into the 70% of black women aren't married and all this stuff, and how they've chosen to chase the bag of careership instead of sitting at home and raising decent children. It's no accident that all what you see now, the debauchery, the degenerative black subculture, because it doesn't represent black people, but that small sector has taken over, has elapsed normal black folks. And I've said this, where do normal black people go? I did a video on it, go check it out. And this is what liberals, disingenuous white liberals, captivate on. This is what they see. To be a normal black person, especially a normal black male that goes to work, has his business or her business, own business, entrepreneurship, to even have an ID. I watched a video in which people were running around and asking black folks, do you have an ID? Do you have an ID? Do most black people have ID? And black folks is like, man, what are you talking about? Yeah, I got an ID. Why the hell wouldn't I have an ID? And this is one thing there was a story in Alabama. And this is to show you how liberals, disingenuous white liberals, look at black folks really. There was a story in which Alabama, my state, something to the effect of asking, to go vote, you need a ID, which to me is a no-brainer. Like, you're damn right you need an ID. But the real focal point on that story was that, well, how, most black people ain't got no ID. This is voter suppression. How dare you ask these people because they don't have ID? That's racism. See, and that's the type of shit that I be talking about. When you ask black folks, do they engage in behavior that is normal to everyone? Like having a damn ID, not even a driver's license, but a state ID, because you can get a ID. You can go vote. You don't need a driver's license to go vote. You just need some form of identification to go vote, state-sponsored, passport, state ID, things of that nature. But the fact that these liberals ask black folks such asinine questions like, do you have an ID? Like, do you think we just run around and... Now, that you see that a lot, and what a lot of black folks have done, they have ran with these fake, false, woe is me excuses handed down by disingenuous white liberals, and have used that as an apparatus to, to make them feel that they are inferior. It's a trick. It is a trick. See, let me just say this, folks. Disingenuous liberals, what they want to hitch their wagon on the so-called oppressive state of people in the so-called black community. And they do this not because they have your well-being and interest. They do this so they can continue to engage in their debauchery, their weird pedosexual activities. And we see this with Black Lives Matter, in which if you go, there's nothing about Black Lives Matter that has anything to do with saving Black lives. In fact, it's a promotion to engage in activities in which you have 3 and 4-year-olds declaring gendership when we know 3 or 4-year-old doesn't even know anything about life. They can barely read. They can barely put together proper diction and sentence structure. But these people want to declare that someone of that age who doesn't have agency in life to decide what their gender is, and gender confusion. This is what disingenuous liberals want to promote. This is what they want to promote, and they're using confused Black individuals, especially this generation coming up. You know, this very offended generation. I'm offended. You know, that hurt my feelings. And these same ones are out here throwing rocks, busting windows, destroying property. But you're so easily offended. When I tell you that's not right, when I tell you that it's not proper to destroy someone's property because you don't get what you want because you're offended, that is problematic, folks. And this goes beyond Black folks, young youth, young Black youth. And it's the same reason why you see these trust fund baby rejects. These are the ones that are down here stirring up the pot. Not in the interest of really saving Black lives, because they could care less, because I've demonstrated and have shown how they really see Black folks. But in essence want to use this as a springboard to promote their perverted ways and outlooks on life, taking away accountability, telling Black folks it's not you. I mean, it's not you. It's the system that keeps us all down. No, and I tell people, don't fall for this, especially young people. Don't fall for this trick. You can't go wrong with being self-accountable. You can't go wrong with hard work. There are some things that are just constant in life, like the value of gold. The value of gold never really goes away. Back in the day, with a piece of gold, you can buy a pair of sandals and a toga. A piece of gold right now can buy you a nice pair of Stacey Adams and a nice suit. There are some things that are just constant, and that's how Painless lives his life. Common sense, as cliche as that may sound, goes a long way. Self-preservation, self-accountability. Now, to those who say, Painless, you have that pull yourself up by your bootstraps, why the hell not? We're supposed to be a collective. Look, Black people are not homogenous, and I've given an example of how you can have 5 Black families living on one block, 3-4 generations of that same family on 17th Street, and they most likely, all 5 of those families, outside of liking greens and turkey necks and rice and neck bones, we do things totally different. It's because we don't have a culture per se. We don't have any norms, any protocols in how we move. And I've said this, there's no Black agenda. There will never be a Black agenda, because if it was, it would have been one already. And when you sit here and say that, oh, we can do it now, what you're doing is you're saying that you're smarter than all those Black folks that came before us that owned businesses, that were Black doctors and dentists and bankers. When in actuality, the culture, now, the mental culture in the so-called black community has taken a vast decrease, a vast nosedive. So I don't expect much. Now, I don't. That's not saying I don't support the youth, but I don't see anything different because we've had great leadership in the past. You know, we've had great leadership. Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington. Great examples of black leadership, black male leadership, that didn't want handouts, that didn't want quotas, who were builders. To now, this is what we have now. And, you know, I'm not afraid to say that. And, you know, and this idea that black women can tell black men how to be a man is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, folks. You're going to take a group of women. Now, keep in mind, over 65% of black people don't grow up in a two-parent household where the woman is, quote unquote, the head of the house, in which men exhibit a lot of those mannerisms from that woman. Thinking like a woman. You're going to tell me that this group is going to tell me how to be a man? And I've given you examples in my last video and how a lot of black women wonder why Painless is able to do the things basic shit, this basic shit, working, having my own place, having my own vehicle, little in portfolio, and you know, this basic shit. I'm not doing anything special, but wondering. And then it doesn't come of it becomes, well, this is what I've been looking for. And a black man who has his SHIT together, but now it becomes competitive. But you know, you say you want that, and you find it. Now you become scared of it. And there's various reasons why. A lot of black women that look at successful black men, normal everyday black men, I'm not talking about your LeBron James, your superstars, your sports stars, your movie stars, just regular Joes. They look at him as like, wow, you know, it becomes, he can have damn near any woman he wants. He can have any woman he wants of the litter. So now it becomes competitive. And I've talked about, and many others have talked about that, you know, not my opinion, but black women tend to be on the lower spectrum in terms of the pecking order of choice selection of men, choice selection of women by men. So when a black woman understands and sees that, it becomes, you become a threat. You go from something that she's wanted to interest to disbelief, then competitive. Because a lot of women, not just black women, but a lot of women want a guy they can really control. At the end of, I mean, I would say that's not in their nature, but given the sexual market now, I wouldn't say, I take that back, I wouldn't say that's what women want, is a guy they can control, but they're so used to dealing with men they can control financially. You know, if you're if you're a woman with your own apartment or house, townhome, and you got Jerome or Skillet, Hambone, has nowhere to go, he has 4 illegitimate children, you control him. You control him. You can control him. Painless can't be controlled like that. I can go stay at a woman's house, and if she gets mad and says, get out, no problem. Out of here. A lot of guys can't do that. A lot of black men can't do that. So when you take that ability to be controlled from women, it turns the tables. You have no powers here. So, I mean, you can't tell me how to be a man. I dictate to you. But again, when you're dealing with a ethnic group where most of the households are raised by women, this is what you have. Essentially men boys. And I've talked about Peter Pan syndrome. And I'll give you a brief summarization of what Peter Pan syndrome is. You just think of the story Peter Pan. Peter Pan never wanted to grow up. And that's what we have in the so-called black community. And it's really honed in on black males. This is why you'll see 56-year-old black men on a Tuesday still wearing old Mike Vick jerseys, Falcon type, Air Max, Jabos, on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Now, despite COVID, I'm not talking about, this is way before COVID. Now, where are most normal people on Tuesday at 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon? Where should you be? I'm not talking about people that work graveyard or swing shift, but where are most normal people on a Tuesday at 1:30 or 2 in the goddamn afternoon? At work. That's where you should be. So, that's what we're dealing with, and it coincides with what I said about quality versus quantity in the so-called black community. And I've talked, the infeminization of black men. You have to be, look, normal black guys that can speak somewhat intelligently, that aren't shucking and jiving, that are about their business, who are not chasing women around the damn department, who are not dressing up as women, being flamboyant. There is no market for us. We are boring. We are either boring or we're a threat, and I think we're both. So society, and this is where disingenuous white liberalism comes in, has to effeminize us, make us less threatening, put us in a dress. Look, we're not threatening. I don't have any bass in my voice. Or when I talk, I have a high screech, Little Richard flamboyant voice. That's not painless. Never will be. I'd rather die than be that way. And men, all groups of men, all colors, you got to be prepared. Don't cave into this metrosexual, trying to look better than your woman, fugazi ass bullshit. Don't fall into that. Don't turn off women because you're having a drought and say, oh, I'm going the other way. I'm going the other way. That's weak to me. You get out and you play the game. You get your physique right. Get your paper up. Go to school if you need to. Get a trade. Don't let these women tap you out. don't be fooled. And I talked about this OnlyFans shit. Look, let me tell you, a lot of these IG models and these OnlyFans, let me tell you this. These OnlyFans women who are making $60,000 a month, and I pray that you're not engaging in that foolishness. But these women that are making $60K a month on OnlyFans and things like that, yeah, it looks good to have $60K coming in. But you know what? These women don't have the mindset to be creative with that type of finance. So they will self-implode. Trust me. These IG models, yeah, it looks good. And I mean, I don't really watch that stuff, but some I like, okay, she's working, she's physically nice, But in the end, those looks will fade. Secondly, they don't have the mental capacity to deal with that. So don't be fooled by that type of stuff. It will all pass, and they'll be right. And see, this is the thing with, this whole feminist movement. I don't need a man, and I know it's been going on. But you know what? If all this shit shuts down tomorrow, you're going to need men to change this, to tote that. And everything will go back to the natural order of things. Let them have their cake now. Laugh now, cry later. That's how I look at all this shit with society, because I know if you were to take away all the social media, all the attention whoring, all the, grandstanding and pandering and simp and relying on simps to pay your rent, shit will go right back to the natural order of things. And women will start to realize the value of a man. But yeah, don't be fooled. Don't tap out, man. Do not tap out. Do not, because a lot of these women aren't even worth, no, I'm not going to let some 24-year-old IG model who probably is one like or one subscriber from being OCS on city streets put me out the game. And a lot of you guys are letting these women do that. You look on there and say, oh, I can never have a woman like her. Bullshit. I'll be damned. Think abundantly, man. Get some confidence. Peace.